Hey, how's it going? This is Melinda and welcome to my channel. Today I am talking to you about Michael Jackson, the 40th anniversary of the album Thriller. I now have the Mobile Fidelity version and I listened to it quite intently. I will share my feelings about how it sounds. I do have an early pressing of it that sounds fantastic, as well as a CBS half-speed mastered version. I've compared all of them. I will let you know what I think of this one. But before I do that, I really do have to talk about Michael Jackson's Thriller and the impact it had on my life. So if you're not a subscriber to my channel, please hit the subscribe button, the like button, the notification bell. Thank you so much. I was 12 years old when this record came out. It had a huge impact on my life. And I've talked to you about Van Halen's 1984 album being very sentimental to me. That was when all of the good times were happening in my life. I was gaining confidence. I was on a roll. Great things were happening. And that record just brings back all of those good times. This is a little bit of the opposite. Thriller came out when I was 12 years old, seventh grade. At the time, my very best friend that I did everything with just suddenly moved away. Her mom went to school, picked her up from school, and they were literally gone. And I did everything with her. I was so lost. And I can remember for the first time in my life dreading lunch because I didn't know who I was going to sit with. And it was a hard time for me. My confidence was down. And you never want to be that middle school girl where the other girls could tell you didn't have confidence, because middle school girls are very vicious. So I got a little bullying here and there. And you know what? Coming home, as Dr. Phil says, was my safe place to fall. I could go home into my room and listen to Michael Jackson's Thriller and forget about what a horrible day I had just experienced and listen to Michael Jackson sing. I want to just read some lyrics really quick. These were lyrics that really meant a lot to me as a 12-year-old. And I know this is corny. Yes, this is a corny video. Please bear with me because I want to share this. This is before Michael Jackson had plastic surgery. And when he looked like this gorgeous young man, this was before there was a hint of allegations. He had this squeaky clean, beautiful image. This is a lyric from the song Wanna Be Startin' Something that I hung onto and clung onto. Lift your head up high and scream out to the world, I know I am someone, and let the truth unfurl. No one can hurt you now because you know what's true. Yes, I believe in me, so you believe in you. I know that's kind of corny, but you know what? When you're 12 years old and you're just hanging by a thread, that's kind of nice when someone cool like Michael Jackson says that in his lyrics. Do we hear lyrics like that anymore? I think not. There's a lot of crazy stuff going on right now, and I don't think they're singing those encouraging lyrics. So, Michael Jackson really meant a lot to me. I had posters of him on my wall. I remember this one beautiful poster where he's wearing this yellow sweater vest. He looked amazing. I believe it is the cover, like if you bought the 45 for Human Nature. I believe that's the photo it was. I loved him. I thought he was gorgeous. And I only wish he could have looked in the mirror and saw what I saw when he looked at himself, because the plastic surgery got extreme. And of course, a lot of you have never lived in a world where Michael Jackson had a squeaky clean image. But I'm telling you, in 1982, he did. So before I get into the sound quality comparisons, I want to take you back to 1982 and share some of the memories and what was important about this record. This is the number one selling record of all time. This beats Dark Side of the Moon. This beats any of the Beatles records. There has to be a reason. And I want to talk to you about what, as a 12-year-old girl, what I think the reason would have been. Let's go ahead and get into some of the songs. Wanna Be Starting Something. I shared that important lyric with you. That was incredible. The Girl Is Mine. That was the first song I remember coming out of the album Thriller. And I loved Paul McCartney. He's my favorite solo artist of all time, even over Michael Jackson, who's way up there too. But that song really did nothing for me. Yeah, I kind of thought the banter at the end where they're kind of fighting, and Michael Jackson gets the best of Paul McCartney in those lyrics. I thought that was kind of fun, but that music really never did anything for me, that song. But I can remember very vividly being on the school bus and this guy Steve sitting in the back seat every day with his big old boom box. He had been dating my friend that had been abruptly taken from us, so we kind of shared that. He hollered for me, Melinda, come back here. I want you to hear this song. And he played Billie Jean for me, and it had an instant hook that I fell in love with. I asked him, play it again. And he played it again and again and again. And we both loved that song. So that's a wonderful memory for me, is hearing Billie Jean. Thriller, the song Thriller. When I hear that, I immediately go back in time. After my friend had been gone for a while, I finally had made a new friend. And her and I had to compete in band. We were clarinet players at the time. And we had to go to some kind of solo ensemble contest. And we both ranked 1, which is the highest you can rank. We were so surprised. We thought we would be like breaking records as the worst ever. And we ended up doing really well. After we had that competition, we went to what's called a Hills department store. And they had a display. And a bunch of people were gathered around. And they were playing the video for the making of Michael Jackson's Thriller. And my friend and I got to stand there and for the first time experience the Thriller video. That was an incredible experience, groundbreaking. No video had ever been done like that. Even though Billie Jean and Beat It were great videos, nothing compared to Thriller. So I'll never forget being in that department store and hearing that song over in Evansville, Indiana. I talked about Billie Jean. I have to also mention that 25th anniversary Motown show that I think nearly everybody watched. I don't know the timeline. I think it was a little bit later than after Billie Jean came out. But I remember my mom sitting there watching Motown's 25th anniversary and seeing Michael Jackson performing Billie Jean. He was clearly lip syncing, but he did this thing where he was like combing his hair and doing this really cool dance. And out of the middle of nowhere, he started gliding across the stage in a way I had never seen before. And of course, now we know it's called the moonwalk, but I had never seen that before. My mom had never seen that before. And all I can say is I know a lot of you, when you talk about the Beatles, you talk about the Ed Sullivan moment. I don't have that, and I'm not saying that this equates to that. But for me, that's kind of the Ed Sullivan moment when I saw Michael Jackson just slide across doing the moonwalk. That made history. It was a really cool moment. I have cool memories also of PYT, a really cool song that later on in 1984, I had a boyfriend, finally, someone who paid attention to me, a really cute guy that I never dreamed liked me. I remember being at a Valentine dance and the song PYT coming on and him pointing PYT and singing to me. And I remember I wanted to look around like, who's he talking to? Because I'd never really experienced that. And I thought that song was really cool. So, you know what? This record meant so much to me, and I wore my copy out. And to this day, when I hear it, I can still feel myself in that childhood home when my mom was alive, and I'm in on my twin bed listening to Thriller in a home that no longer exists. It was torn down a year ago, and yet I can still feel its presence when I hear this record. That is truly the power of music. You know, we can do sound comparisons and talk about audiophile and what sounds good and what doesn't. But you know what? No matter what, this record hits me in the heart. This is an important record, and I know a lot changed for Michael Jackson, and I'm sad that it did, but no one can ever take away the memories of being in that room and being comforted by this music. So now I will go ahead and get into the sound quality part. I did take some notes that I'm going to refer to, but I'll be honest with you guys, this was a selfish thing for me. I wanted to take in the Mobile Fidelity version for me. I did write some comments of what struck me, um, but I wanted to hear it for myself and experience it for myself. So let's go ahead and get started with the beautiful song "Wanna Be Starting Something." Immediately, okay, so I'll be honest with you, I've been on Facebook and I've watched videos. I know that the reaction to this Mobile Fidelity version is mixed, and my copy is number 4902. So mixed reviews of this pressing. I know a lot of people have hard feelings towards Mobile Fidelity. I get it, and I'm with you to an extent, but I've also been a big fan of the sound quality of their records. So a lot of people have been saying that it lacks punch, that the original, which was fantastic by Bernie Grundman, he was the mastering engineer. We had a producer like Quincy Jones, and we had Michael Jackson himself. That's a pretty killer lineup, and those early versions of Thriller sound fantastic. So a lot of people were saying this lacked punch and I kind of took note of that and I started listening to it. And you guys, I can't stress enough how much I know this record from front to back, like the back of my hand. I don't get it. I think this record has a lot of punch. I thought it was beautiful. I heard Congo drums that I've never heard before. Tell me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure I heard Congo drums at the very end of this very cool mix. And Michael sounds great, huge sound stage. It was punchy. I sat there like this. I was dancing. I know I look like a dork right now, but I don't care. I don't care. So then we can move on to Baby Be Mine, which was never a huge hit, but everybody knows it. I'd say the synthesizers sound great. Detail is amazing on that. The Girl Is Mine. Again, that was one of those songs that when I first heard it, on here, it sounds beautiful. Paul McCartney's voice sounds great. There's background vocals that are very prominent on here, and they're very clean. And you can hear finger snaps in a way that I've never heard before. They picked up on that, and I thought that was really cool. To hear that in a different way after hearing this record for a gazillion times was very refreshing. We can move on now to Thriller. I was not aware of how much texture there was to the song Thriller. There's a lot going on in a good way. And I just think, even though I've always thought that early pressing that I owned sounded fantastic, I thought I heard a little more clarity, a little more texture, a little bit more of what was going on this one. And at the end, when Vincent Price starts laughing, it's really like almost creepy. I had goosebumps. It was unreal. He sounded like he was in the room laughing at me or whatever. It was just a creepy feeling. So I really enjoyed that. And then we get into Beat It. And I really think they nailed that intro with that poof, poof. I mean, they really nailed it. The guitars sound great. Of course, my favorite artist of all time, of any genre, is Eddie Van Halen. And of course, he has the amazing solo on here. And what's funny is when I sat down today to listen to that, right when Eddie was about to play, my dog came up on my lap and threw up on my sweater. So I had to stop listening and clean up, go back. I started the record over again and listened to it. And oh my gosh, of course, I knew even as a kid, because I had read the liner notes, there was a special thank you to Eddie Van Halen. I believe, I'm going by memory here, but you know what? I knew it was Eddie because of the iconic playing. You knew Eddie Van Halen's signature sound. He didn't play for the whole song of Beat It, but for that solo, yes. And he nailed it. And it sounds great on this version. I will say the one thing about Beat It that was a little disappointing on this record versus what I've heard in the past. There's a part where he's singing beat it, and he goes and he gets real breathy. And if you're familiar with the Weird Al Yankovic version of Eat It, it's at that time when he starts fogging up the camera. And it lacks a little bit on this version. Not the end of the world, just an observation I made about that. And then we go into Billie Jean, which for me, that's the song that really started it all for me in falling in love with this record. It's probably my favorite. Um, a lot of people say that the drums are maybe a little farther back. Maybe it's not as punchy. I think it's very punchy. I was punched. I thought it sounded phenomenal. It hooks you in right from the very beginning of that song. And I loved it. I thought the guitars were more forward, heard a little more detail in the guitar playing. The synthesizers, they're just really booming on this one. You hear, he goes, there's parts where it goes, it just really blows up on you. I really liked it. I think Billie Jean on this Mobile Fidelity version is wonderful. And that one was a make or break song for me. They had to come through for that one. And I think they did. And then we get into the song Human Nature. You guys, on this version, I had goosebumps from the very beginning to the very end. That song soars. His choices in his vocals, the stylization of it, it really emphasizes what a great singer he was. And you know what? He had that big old voice. He belted out those songs as the Jackson 5 when he was a kid. And he had an instantly recognizable voice as an adult, which I think is as important as having this wonderful voice that could go through all the ranges. And Michael Jackson had it. Human Nature was not a song I appreciated as a little girl, but I love as an adult. I think it's a beautiful song. Then we go into PYT. And I can just say it's still fun. I sat there listening to it, just really dancing along to it, because this is a dance album and the punchiness was great. He goes kind of, no, 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 no. I think it's great. I loved it. It's punchy. It's really, really good. The whole album has a clarity to it. And then we also get into the song Lady of My Life, a really slow ballad to finish this album off, showing off the beautiful vocals, what a great singer Michael Jackson was. I really can hear a lot of the details of what they're singing, like the background vocals. Now is the time. You can hear that so clearly where you never really heard it as clear before. Again, I am not putting down any other version. I want to show you what I have. I have an early version of this record. And it is not a first pressing because Michael Jackson is also credited as a producer with Quincy Jones. And when I saw that, I had to laugh. But it's just obvious that as a poor girl with a mom who could barely pay the bills. There's no way I had a first pressing of this record. She had to wait till it becomes a monster hit, maybe goes on sale. It had to be a sure thing hit. Mom did not take chances on anything. So, yes, this is a second pressing probably, but it sounds amazing. Now, I played this one to death. This is my copy that I had as a little girl. I didn't get rid of it. So there's some sound pops from having a really cheap turntable back in the day, but I can still play it and it still sounds fantastic. You can tell how great it was and what a dance record. Hot, heavy. Bernie Grundman nailed it. So I love this version of it. I also fairly recently bought the CBS half speed mastered version of it, and it's good too. It's cleaner than my early version, but it lacks the punch that the early version has, and it also lacks the punch that, in my opinion, this Mobile Fidelity record has. This was such a fun listen. I've enjoyed every single minute of it. It didn't disappoint me. And I know there's some people who do not think it sounds good. They think that the punch is gone from it. And I respect every opinion. However you feel about it, I respect you, and you have your own ears and you have your own amazing stereo equipment. So you heard it the way you heard it. I hear it the way I do. This one did not lack punch, in my opinion. It's beautiful. It capitalizes on everything that needed to be capitalized on. They had some really big shoes to fill. They had Michael Jackson, Quincy Jones, Eddie Van Halen. They had Bernie Grundman, who I think in his obituary when he dies 100 years from now, it should say he was the mastering engineer for Michael Jackson's Thriller. And you know what? Mobile Fidelity took that challenge and they did a fantastic job. I can only imagine when this final test pressing arrived and they listened to it, looked at each other, and they're like, yes, this is it. I can only imagine how that feeling would be. But I enjoyed this. This is a lot of fun. It sounds very good. It's very pricey. So if this is not your favorite album, you may not want to spend $100 on it, and I totally get that. But as I have explained in this video over and over again, this is a truly sentimental record for me. This was a have to have. I'm glad Mobile Fidelity didn't let me down. I really enjoyed it, and I think it's great. So I am not telling you to go out and buy it, and I definitely would not tell you to not buy it. I just know that this 40th anniversary brings back a lot of wonderful memories, a little bit of sadness. I'm glad that I was able to live in the time I did and get to experience Michael Jackson before all the controversies and plastic surgeries. This record meant the world to me then, and it's a great reminder and a great piece of memorabilia now. So that is my take on Michael Jackson's Thriller from an emotional standpoint as well as from a sound quality standpoint. Let me know what you think. Leave your comments below. Do you like the Mobile Fidelity version or not? I respect either way. Let me know what your personal memories are because I love hearing about that. Thank you so much for watching, and please subscribe. I will talk to you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.